How to practice speaking clearly. Today we're going to talk about how to not slur your words, some exercises that are going to help you. I've actually had to do a lot of work at this, and I'm a professional speaker. However, I do have a history of a lot of challenges with mashing words together or saying letters incorrectly. In fact, when I was a kid, I had to go to speech therapy. And so I think I'm the perfect guy to help you speak more clearly. Let's dive in. So let's talk about section 1, the importance of clear speaking. The 3 C's are clarity, cohesion, and consistency. One of my favorite examples of all time of speaking, I share a lot about Winston Churchill, the great Prime Minister of Britain in the World War II era, is that this man was one of the greatest speakers of all time. It didn't just happen to be that way. He actually was born with a lisp. Now a lisp means that he had a hard time with the letter S as well as other words, and he had to practice quite a bit. These were some of the things that I read that he practiced. You ready? If you want to try this with me. The Spanish ships I cannot see, for they are not in sight. Try that with me. The Spanish ships I cannot see, for they are not in sight. Imagine having a lisp and having to practice that. Winston Churchill did those types of exercises every single day. And why did it matter? It mattered because he wanted to communicate more clearly. He wanted to make it so that he could be the type of leader that people would follow. Practiced so hard, and he actually overcame something very great in his clarity of speech. So when you think about the benefit for yourself of speaking more clearly and more competently, people will follow you, people will take you serious, people will see that you have confidence. All of these things matter to somebody who's speaking clearly. And I like to say it's your leadership promise to speak your message clearly so that others are able to follow you. Let's talk about the anatomy of clear speech. Here are some elements of clear speech. First would be articulation. It's such a wonderful thing to hear somebody articulate something well, isn't it? Whether it's the alliteration of the words or just the articulation of the way that they say it. Then there's tone. Yes, I've done other videos on tone that you can look up on this great channel. But when you think about the tone of a voice, why do we want to listen to somebody? That tone matters. If you want to check out another video I made about tone, check this one out by typing in this title on this channel. How to change the tone of your singing voice. Why does that matter with speaking? Because the more that we work with our voice, whether it's in singing or speaking, it will help in all things. And then there's pace. I love to think about the pacing of a talk, of a speaker, the way that they drive the conversation, because really it's not a presentation as much as a conversation. And then there's vocabulary. You have a great choice in this moment as to what vocabulary you want to use and utilize in order for people to really believe what you have to say. For example, you could use the word candor instead of honesty or truthfully. You could use the word tremendous instead of size or excellence. I love the word tremendous. Or you could use the word articulate or articulate instead of he speaks good. Case study, Maya Angelou. One of the greatest speakers of all time is Maya Angelou, and this is interesting because I never knew this until I was researching this topic for this video. Maya Angelou actually overcame a childhood trauma. When she was 5 years old, she said something that actually led to the conviction and the death of somebody in her neighborhood. And she felt so bad about that she did not speak for half a decade. Now, she was not in the wrong, she was just saying something that was correct. But she had to overcome something extremely great by being completely quiet for almost half a decade. And then she chose to speak again, one of the greatest speakers that's ever lived. Let's talk about some of the overlooked techniques for practicing clear speaking. These are really tough for me to even do on camera for you because they're so hard to spit out. But let's try some. If you want to try them with me, you're going to enjoy this. These are some tongue twisters, and actors do this, musicians do this, speakers should be working on these. Ready? She sells seashells by the seashore. Try that with me. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. You know New York, unique New York, you know you need unique New York. Try some of those. Those are fun, right? Maybe if you want, put in the comments the ones that I missed that you're like, I wish he would have done that one. Let me see what they are, because these are so helpful. Tip number 2, let's talk about speech shadowing. So we just done the techniques on, tongue twisters. Let's talk about shadowing. So have you ever watched a speaker and you thought, I want to speak like that? Well, watch somebody that you want to mimic and then not necessarily steal, but rather just figure out how you can engage and speak in their style. The first speaker I ever got to see in person was a guy named Dan Clark. Dan Clark is one of my dear friends now, but back then I was a kid and he was at my middle school. And I remember watching him speak and everyone was laughing and clapping and having a great time. And I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. And so I started to mimic Dan Clark. In fact, now he's upset that I do it so well because I'm like, my name's Dan Clark, you know you love me, right? But I was doing more of an impression. However, he helped me get to the place where I could mimic him through shadowing the way that he did his styling, the way he did his voice, his articulate delivery, which is fascinating and beautiful, his pitch, his volume, his style. And then I've created my own on top of that. And so when we find a legend, when we mimic the masters, that's how we can shadow somebody and create our own sound. Tip number 3 is active listening. When it comes to active listening, how active are you? Are you just kind of hearing something as it goes by? I have always said that I've made a living as a speaker, but I make a life as a listener. And when it comes to the way that I've made a living, I actually started my career as an entertainer in Las Vegas. I was with the Legends in concert. And the first job I went for was an Elton John impersonator. Now, that's a big promise to an audience paying $100 a ticket to see somebody who's not even the actual artist. But I had to nail the voice of Elton John. That meant I had to listen actively to what he was doing with his voice. I actually opened my speeches with this whole story about how I could not get the voice down and I lost the audition the first time. After about a year of research, listening actively to his voice, I was able to come back and discover the signature moves that are the essence of Elton's voice. And really I found out through research and listening a lot that he adds a country honky-tonk twang to his English accent, and he came up with that great sound. Blue jean baby, LA lady. He has that little country twang in there that makes all the difference in nailing that voice. Tip number 4 is acting techniques for clear speech. I want you to think about how you do vocal warm-ups for yourself, or are you just going off to the races right before a speech? It's so important to have those vocal exercises, and I've done other videos about that if you want to check those out. There's also breath control. Think about your breathing. How are you breathing when you're on stage, when you have the ability to get up there and say something all the way through the entire sentence, or you're running out of air? And then enunciation drills. Yeah, we just went through some of those tongue twisters, but it's important also to enunciate some of your best points that you have. For example, I like to say, goals or particulars or promises or proclamations. Why set a goal when you can make a promise? Those types of things have to be enunciated clearly. They have to be said with a tone that really gives the articulation nicely, because they are nice, wonderful phrases. And so here are some immediate actions you can take if you want to speak more clearly. You ready? Here we go. Number 1, daily recitation. Thinking of a daily recitation, I think about the times that I was a kid and I was almost being held back because I couldn't read well. And so here's what I did. I would read out loud every single day. I would encourage you to read out loud for 10 minutes a day. You probably read a lot of books. Because you're watching this video, I bet you're also a reader. But I want you to think about how often you read aloud. And the more you read aloud, the more comfortable it become, and then you will become a more clear speaker. Action number 2, record and review. Record yourself speaking and watch it back. Yeah, it might be painful, but you'll get used to it and you'll get better as you go. Action number 3, seek for feedback from the right people. I hope that you'll ask the people that you trust how the speaking went, how you're doing, and if you were clear enough. Sometimes my words still get slurred and people say, oh, I missed that punchline because you said it too fast. And so I'm still working on it every day myself, but the feedback helps. Your voice is your personal signature. It's your signature move. And so I hope that as you've listened to me today, you've thought about how clearly you're speaking. I hope that you'll also consider figuring out for yourself what your voice truly is, because you have signature moves that make you unique. And I like to say you have talents I don't have, and I have talents you don't want. So I hope that you'll go check this out. If you go to icmprocess.com, that's where you can get the ICM process assessment. And it'll help you through figuring out how to identify your voice, clarifying with others what you've got, and magnifying what makes you great. As you do this, you will speak more clearly, you'll affect more people, and your leadership promise will come into play. Thanks for joining me today. Have a good one.